every man is responsible for everything that happens to him and everything that happens to everyone else.
Everything is your fault, even when it's not.
The brilliant insight that changes everything for people is realizing that responsibility is never given, it's taken.
Rise and shine, it's Entspresso time. What's up, Believe Nation? It's Evan. My one word is believe, and I believe in you. I believe you have an amazing gift inside you that I want to see exploded onto the world. So let's start your day off right together. Grab your coffee and sip on today's message. Take responsibility. Over to you, Jordan B. Peterson.
I wake up every morning.
Espresso keep me going.
I wake up every morning.
One of the things that's really interesting about the Old Testament is that, and the Jews in the Old Testament, is that they don't take the path of Cain. Every time they're walloped by God, which is like fairly frequently, they say, we must have done something wrong and we have to set ourselves right. And that's an unbelievably heroic attitude, because that's the alternative to cursing fate. It's like you take the responsibility for failure onto yourself, and you think, well, if I just had my act together a little bit more, if I took advantage of every opportunity that was put in front of me, if I wasn't resentful and bitter, then I could have done something that would have tilted the situation in a different direction. And like, that's almost inevitably true. Dostoevsky, I think, said something like, every man is responsible for everything that happens to him and everything that happens to everyone else. And that's, it's a crazy statement, right? It's a crazy statement. And he was a pretty extreme person in many, many ways. But there's a level at which that's metaphysically true, because what happens is that it's failure to act often that's the most catastrophic. It's to not do the right thing when the situation presents itself, and it's very specific. You're constantly in situations where you could do the right thing if you were willing to take a risk that's actually of relatively moderate size. And you know that you could take the risk, and you know that you should take the risk, and you don't. And that happens to people all the time. And then what happens is the thing that they didn't oppose grows a little bit, and they shrink a little bit. And that starts a loop, hey?
The minute that you start to accept responsibility for everything in your life is the minute that you start to win. Great leaders accept responsibility for everything that is happening around them in their business, in their life. It's what great leaders do. Great leaders are not blaming their mom. They're not blaming their team. They're not blaming the president when something doesn't happen according to the way that they want it to happen. Great leaders don't just take credit when everything is good. Great leaders, in fact, usually give credit to their team, but then they own the responsibility. They own the mistakes. Everything is their fault. On the surface, that might seem a little extreme. That might seem like a crazy burden to bear. That idea that everything is your fault, even when it's not. Everything is your fault, even when it's not. It's an unfair burden to bear, but when you do it, why it's so amazing, why it leads to ultimate happiness, why it ultimately sets you free, is because now it's in your control. If you believe you have the responsibility, then you can also believe that you can change it. You can make an impact, you can make a difference, you can solve it. But as long as it's somebody else's fault, you can't. As long as it's the president's fault, the economy's fault, your customer's fault, as long as it's somebody else's fault, it feels great because you can blame somebody else, but you can't fix it. And so great leaders accept the responsibility that it's their fault, and then they go off and make the change. Everything that happens in my business, everything that happens in my life, in all my businesses, it's all my fault. Some quick examples. We had to get some books out. I had signed some books, had to get to some of the fans, some customers, and I customized each one. I wrote a message on the inside of each book. Nina, my wife, was in charge of sending them out. And she didn't open up the book to see that I had customized it. She just thought I had a default signature, and she just piled any book into the envelope and sent it off. And so Jocko got a book that said, Dear Nathan. And so we had to write to everybody and say, we're really sorry, we messed up. Let us send you another book that has the proper name on it. That's my fault, right? Is it Nina's fault? Yeah, but it's my fault. I own it. It's my fault because I didn't tell Nina that this was happening. I wasn't clear in the instructions. Ultimately, it was my decision to give it to her. It's my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault. In parenting, it's my fault. In these videos, it's my fault. We did a day of shooting where my microphone didn't work. And we filmed how many videos? I don't know how many videos. How many videos did we film? Like 40 videos, 60 videos. A lot of videos. And my microphone didn't work. So the audio's being picked up by the camera, which is across the room, and it's super echoey. And some of my best videos are on that super echoey camera.
Hello, Believe Nation. My name is Evan Carmichael. My one word is believe.
That's my fault. I mean, it's Jason's fault, really. Jason's here. But it's my fault. It's my fault. Ultimately, it's my fault, right? I should have done a sound check. I should have made sure that everything was set up properly. It's my fault that that happened. And so I encourage you strongly to think about everything that's happening. Like, why are you not more successful? Look in the mirror, ask yourself, why are you not more successful? What's the reason that comes to mind? Unless the answer comes back that it's you, then it's BS. Then it's just excuses. Then it's just blaming somebody else. It's not your mom's fault you're not more successful. It's not Donald Trump's fault you're not more successful. It's not your high school teacher's fault you're not more successful. It's you, it's you. You are the reason you are not more successful. You are your biggest asset and your biggest liability. You are getting in your own way. Your lack of skills, energy, ability, passion is what is holding you back right now. And use that as, again, a kick forward, not a kick down. Don't use that to pile on crap on top of yourself and say, well, I suck, I'm never gonna get better and it's all my fault and woe is me and life is terrible, I should just stay in a hole and never come out. Which a lot of people do, and it's really unfortunate and sad. Because there's a way through. Yes, it's your fault, but that means you can change it. That means you can get better. If you get better, the problem will go away. If you learn this skill, the problem will go away. If you touch these buttons, the problem will go away. And so if you think that any problem in your life is your fault, and you have the ability to change it and make a difference and make a mark, that's when you start to win. Now I have a really special bonus clip for you, but before that, question of the day, I want to know, what is one negative thing happening in your life right now that you are going to own responsibility for and say, that thing is happening, that's my fault. Leave in the comments below, really curious to figure it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I believe in you. I hope you continue to believe in yourself and whatever your one word is. Much love. I'll see you again tomorrow morning for another shot of Entspresso, and enjoy the bonus clip.
I wake up every morning.
Espresso, keep me going.
You've been lied to for a really long time. That school is a scam that teaches people to be compliant, that tells you to only listen to things that are on the test, encourages you to do the minimum amount, because whatever you can get away with, the rest of the time's yours. That's what we teach you in school. We invented that so that you would get a factory job and do what you were told, because factories needed it, so that's why they invented school. And the brilliant insight that changes everything for people is realizing that responsibility is never given, it's taken. And that if you choose to take responsibility, all these doors open up, and that you get a totally different life in exchange. Because striving for authority, hoping that someone will give you a license to tell other people what to do, that's pretty rare. But if you're willing to take responsibility, then no one can get in your way.
At what point were you working at McDonald's? And that was an acting training ground for you and no one else.
It's what you make of your circumstances. I mean, I went to UCLA. I was a literature major. My dad wanted me to be a math major. I wanted to go to art school to compromise that I study literature. Once I got to UCLA, I realized, half the town was in the movie business, and suddenly I saw that there were practical steps I could take to get into the movies. And I didn't seem to be doing that, in my Milton class. It just seemed like the long road to, I didn't even know where. And so I eventually dropped out of UCLA after a year and went to acting school in the Valley. And my parents said they wouldn't support me if I wasn't going to university. And so I had to get a job, and I couldn't, all the other actors had better, they got all the great waiting jobs, and somebody said, "You're too good to work at McDonald's," and I said, "No," and it was, because I wanted to be an actor, and it felt like that was the only way I would be able to do it. it was a really important lesson, actually, that, you know, going and working and being responsible for myself really showed me how much I wanted to act. Like, it wasn't the soft way. You know, I had to really work for it.
Take no less than 100% responsibility for your life. You know, one of the greatest myths that's pervasive in our culture today is that you're entitled to a great life and that somehow, somewhere, someone is responsible for filling our lives with continual happiness and exciting career options, a nurturing family and blissful personal relationships simply because we exist. But the real truth is that there's only one person responsible for the quality of your life, and that person is you. You see, everything about you is a result of your doing or not doing. Your income, your debt, your relationships, your health, your fitness level, your attitudes and behaviors, everything. That person you see when you look in the mirror is the chief architect in your life. You know, I think everybody knows this in their heart of hearts, but the mind can play games, tricking us into thinking that there are external factors that are the source of our failures, our disappointments, and our unhappiness. But the truth of the matter is that external factors don't determine how you live. You, and only you, are in complete control of the quality of your life experience. Successful people take full responsibility for the thoughts they think, the images they visualize, and the actions they take. They don't waste their time and energy on blaming and complaining. They evaluate their experiences and decide if they need to change them or not. They face the uncomfortable and they take risks in order to create the life that they want to live.
So let me give you the one-word secret to happiness. One word. This is all you need to be happy.
The most important word ever.
If you had to think of one word that's most important to you or that sums you up or that would be kind of like a little beacon.
Hey Believe Nation, if you want to know what the most important one word is for Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, Oprah Winfrey, will.i.am, and Howard Schultz, I have a very special secret video for you. Check the description for details.